We're fast approaching the 2025 NFL draft. I've had a chance to look through a couple of hundred of these players in this upcoming draft. And so I thought I would kind of isolate and target specific guys here on the channel on some quick videos of guys that I could see be likely Seahawks targets. And this can range anywhere from the first all the way through the 7th round. Just some random guys that have stood out to me that I think definitely are going to be on John Schneider and Mike Macdonald's radar when we come to the draft. And the first guy that we're going to start out with is one of my favorite edges in the draft. In fact, my second favorite edge in this entire draft, and that's going to be Mykel Williams of Georgia. This is a guy that'll be a little bit of a divisive edge from some fans' standpoint because they're going to look a little bit at the lack of production on him versus some of the others in this draft, some of the other edges that are being considered first-round edges, and they'll say, well, but for what? Why? And so let me make a little bit of the case as to why I think Mykel Williams is definitely deserving of being picked at 18 and probably will be picked even ahead of where Seattle's picking at 18. First, it starts with size. 6'5", 265 pounds, really, really long. He's going to be able to basically manhandle tackles, both at the college level and at the NFL level, especially as he gets his grown man strength. Because the other part that stands out on him and the part to really consider and keep in mind when it comes to maybe some of the lack of production is this kid's only 20 years old. He's going to turn 21 in June, so you're getting a very, very young player who you can just see the upside and the ceiling with these kind of players as you look along at them because of the fact that they are so young. It's those older prospects that you go, that's a little bit more of a finished product. And when it comes to Williams, what he brings to the table is exactly what Mike Macdonald's defense needs right now. It's the power edge. This is the edge that can set that hard edge, reroute that outside zone game, which proliferates the NFL, back inside your defensive tackles and linebackers to make the play. But nobody gets around your edge when this guy's on the field. And this is just what he brings with that size, with that length, with that power. Much of his game is going to be relying on power. You're going to see a lot of cut-ups with him when you see him being talked about with the bull rush and just pushing guys back into the pocket. He's not going to be a first-step explosive guy, a dip guy, a bender. He's not going to have some of the traditional things that you're going to look for from edges, which is what's going to have some people not as much hot to trot on him. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have his own particular skill set that would work and blend perfectly with this defense and still doesn't bring some potential true upside with him. There are other ways to get sacks. There are other ways to get pressures, especially when you're as big, as large, and just kind of fearsome as he is coming off the edge in the way that he does from a physicality standpoint. He is going to get into the offensive lineman first and foremost and work off of effort. There's not a lot of pass rush moves intermixed in here. He does have a rip move as kind of a finisher that he brings to the table, which is really nice at the end, especially as he starts to get around offensive linemen. There is a lot of his production which is going to come off of stunts and twists within their defense, but that does work within some of the simulated pressure, stack box stuff that we're going to run as well. And then he's got some stuff where you're seeing him just create the pressure traditionally. We're just working off the edge, gets the edge against the guy, uses a little bit of the power, engages the rip move, able to maybe rip the ball out of the hand of the quarterback at that right keen moment. He also has this nice innate ability that I see in him, and I think that this is going to come even better into bloom when he really develops from a physicality standpoint. And then he always has a way of being able to really keenly track what the quarterback is doing, where the quarterback's at in the pocket, what the quarterback is just about getting set to do, and he can bounce off that block at any point in time and go and then rally around and go get that quarterback or create the pressure late in that way. So he's not a guy that necessarily is going to create maybe pure instantaneous pressure like some of the more explosive edges in this draft, like an Abdul Carter or even his teammate Jalen over there at Georgia as well. But this kid's got his own kind of upside. And when I look at the player comp for him, the guy that stands out to me is Jadeveon Clowney. That's who I see here. Now, not Jadeveon Clowney is the #1 overall pick coming out in the draft as he did with this superstar upside. Not quite that, but really, really the good upside we've seen of Jadeveon Clowney, where he's maybe not reached to being a star player in this league, but yet still carved his way into being a top 100 player at a given time. One of the better run defending edges that you'll find in the sport, who then also gives you a lot of power to go in addition to that in the run game and ability to be awesome as far as a pass rusher off that power in addition to that. So not just a one-trick pony, gives you a bit of both. I think some people with Clowney get caught up on what he was not become rather than what he actually is, which is a really fine, solid player who, again, fits really well into this Mike Macdonald defense, as we saw last year, Jadeveon Clowney had the best year of his career in this Mike Macdonald defense. So this is a requirement. This is a need. The value would be about right if this kid dipped to about 18 there in the first round. And I think that the upside is true and real with him when you really do consider his age and where he's going as a player. I'd also say when it comes to this Georgia defense, it's not really well suited to get caught up too much on the production. A lot of these guys have been highly drafted in recent years who aren't necessarily really hyper productive in that Georgia defense because NFL talent evaluators look at the defense and they say, there's a lot of games being run here. There's a lot of blitzes being run here. There's a lot of zone blitzes being run here where you might have an edge dropping into coverage. This is something he does really well and something that they would ask him to do at times. So it's not that you're just getting to put your hand in the dirt and go get after the passer as fast and hard as you can. It's also about playing within the role of the defense, within the role of the blitz scheme that they're running, and that's going to depress some of your value. It's done this for Trayvon Walker, who still went number 1 overall there to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nolan, who's developed into a really fine player for the Philadelphia Eagles, very similar. Jalen Carter, his final year there in college, only had about 4.5 sacks from the interior. Now, it's an interior, not an edge guy, but it just shows it's hard to do this in this defense. It's understandable then when they don't necessarily have that, and that's where you can fall back a little bit on to just keep an eye on the tape, keep an eye on those opportunities when he does get them to just put his hand in dirt and go and get after it. But I think this is a pure fit for the Hawks defense, and I'd be very happy if they took him at the 18th pick in the first round.